When you start looking at the data that's being used, one that I've got a big problem with is the COVID death rate, because it's died within 28 days of a positive test. You know, you get a positive test, day 27 you get flattened by a bus, but it's COVID that killed you, which frankly is ridiculous. I think what we really need and needed was a died with, died from, and there is going to be a small section that could be either way, but that'd be far more useful to see what the virus is doing, as opposed to just blanket 28 days from a positive test. Initially, when we were looking at what was happening in Spain, in Italy, I did think that the first lockdown with the restrictions were justified based on what we were seeing happening in other countries, and it was fair to say that was coming our way. So at first I did support it, but as time's gone on and we start looking at the metrics, as I said before, with the death rate, it just feels like the restrictions are just being put in place and people are desperately trying to hang on to the restrictions. And I feel very strongly, because those regulations restrict so many of our freedoms, that they should not be in place for a second longer than they need to be. A lot of the policies seem to be being driven by SAGE, and when you've got people like Neil Ferguson, who is proven to have gotten it wrong in the past with the swine flu epidemic and so on, you know, why are we trusting implicitly in models that the man creates when we've seen that we're wrong? And he didn't even take it seriously enough to obey the rules that he said should be put in place. It just seems ridiculous that that is the be-all and the end-all of why we're in this position that we're in now. My grandmother, she was the last of my grandparents, died during the pandemic, and my wife's grandmother died during the pandemic, neither of COVID. Neither of them got touched by it at all. But we couldn't go and see them. We would have visited them. Certainly, as we knew it was coming to the end, we would have gone and spent some time with them. And we just weren't allowed to. It was like they were locked away in a nursing home for their own good, almost as if that nursing home was a prison rather than a home to live in. You know, to be locked in a home somewhere, you've done nothing wrong, but you're locked away. It just doesn't feel right at all. Yeah, I think with regards to the vaccine, obviously the take-up in the UK has been really, really high. The vaccine rollout has been fantastic. That is one of the things that you can't dispute the government got absolutely right. But I think the talk now with no jab, no job and vaccine passports, I'm quite happy for a vaccine passport for international travel. It's no different to having to get vaccinations to visit certain countries already. But if it's going to be used domestically to say that you can't go to the pub, you go to work, maybe you can't even go on the street the way some people are talking, I just think that is a step too far. To do it by the back door, that's even more dishonest, because you're not even being upfront and saying we are going to force you to have the vaccine. You're just going to put so many hurdles to life in people's way that they will have no choice. I think the thing that's bothered me most through all this has been the difficulty in actually debating any of it, especially on social media, Twitter in particular. You question any of the validity of lockdown. You're not denying that the virus exists and it is having a significant effect. What you're questioning is how much of an effect, and are the restrictions justified, are they right? And it's a pile-on from people that then start calling you a COVID denier. You just want to let it rip and just kill hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm a big believer in freedom of speech. I'll always stand up for your right to say whatever you feel at the time. And that does seem to have been hit very, very hard. And I don't feel that there's enough people standing up and saying, well, hold on, we should have a right to debate this. There are key people that are standing up and saying it, but they seem to be few and far between. Most people seem kind of happy. I think it's not maybe happy. I think a lot of people don't want to have that confrontation with someone jumping down the throat saying you want to kill hundreds of thousands of people, when all you want to do is have a conversation about whether actually it's justified that we can't drive half an hour down the road to go for a walk.